97 to 139 for Donald Trump. Let's bring back Britt Hume and Chris Wallace. I know you're straining to see the big wall.
And now it's gone.
All right, there it's gone. Your thoughts? What does this look like?
I've just been checking in on some of these guys who do these forecasts and projections, and they model it. I'm talking about Nate Silver of the 538 blog, which has been so successful. He now has it, Clinton with almost a almost a 75% chance of winning the election, but that's been coming down in his number. And he says by 69% chance that Republicans hold the Senate, which I think is kind of interesting. Because,
Stunning.
That's a big headline.
That's a huge headline.
Yeah, interesting.
And about Florida, there's also a...
Well, he says it looks like slightly better than even chance that Trump wins Florida.
But the question is, what else? But things right now, Chris Wallace, are looking much tighter than I think the Clinton camp may have expected. Now, there's still a lot of outstanding vote to be counted, but we haven't made calls in Virginia, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, Colorado, Arizona on his side, but a lot of those blue states that we thought were going to be blue that we haven't been able to call.
I think we're all, at least I'm coming to the conclusion tonight, conclusion is the wrong word, to open to the possibility Donald Trump could be the next president of the United States.
The crowd.
I just said it's a possibility. They're cheering on it. No, look, Florida, I believed as we sat down here at 6 o'clock tonight that Hillary Clinton was going to take it. I think a lot of us bought into the idea the Hispanics were going to be the difference, big surge. Now we're counting votes. I mean, now we're down to single votes. This could go either way. North Carolina could go either way. Ohio could go either way. New Hampshire could go either way. Look, I think you'd still rather be in Clinton's position than Trump's as we sit here right now. But you can certainly write a scenario. He has not lost any state that he must have. He's competitive and within the margin of error in a lot of states that I think we thought she was going to put away. He could be our next president.
I will say that talking to Republicans over text and reaching out, they don't believe the Virginia vote, the lead, is going to hold up there. They think the Northern Virginia vote is just going to overwhelm and shrink that lead. But the fact that we haven't called it for Hillary Clinton is a big deal. And then, Britt, you get into the Rust Belt states, and you get into Pennsylvania, and you get into Michigan. You even get into Minnesota.
And what appears to be happening is that Clinton is doing well in all the places where we thought she would, and Donald Trump is doing very well, and perhaps even better than expected, in the rural areas, in the blue-collar areas where we thought he would do well. And we're now at a point in this where, yeah, you look at the advantages, you look at the map, and you say, yes, Hillary Clinton still has an advantage, but he's in this. I mean, he is in this.
Absolutely.
At this hour.
Just according to the latest numbers, it looks like Trump is up 140,000 votes down in Florida. And the heavily favored Democratic counties are Broward, Miami-Dade are substantially in.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't know that there is a whole treasure trove of Hillary Clinton votes waiting out there.
And I think, you know, you have to, we need to keep a real eye on Broward, because the minority population is sufficient there that if it comes in at the end for her, that could.
And apparently some of those precincts in Broward have not come in yet.
Right.
So that's still open. Look, you know, to flip to the other side, if all of these states that are too close to call now flip her way, she could win a landslide victory. But as you said, Brett, he is still in this right now. I'm not sure a lot of us thought he would be at this hour.
Yeah, let me make a call here on the House side, and that is for the Democrats. Florida 7, Democrat Stephanie Murphy, who is a 38-year-old college instructor. She will defeat 12-term incumbent Republican Representative John Mica, and it's a newly drawn district. This district was seen as most competitive for Democrats in Florida, split for Obama and Romney in 2012, but this goes to the Democrats, and it takes out a 12-term incumbent Republican.
Did you say she's a fitness instructor?
No, she's a college instructor. She's a former Pentagon defense...
College instructor.
Yeah. What did...
Not a collegian instructor.
I got confused.
Collegian? No, Pentagon defense specialist. She's a college instructor.
There we go.
38 years old.
That makes more sense.
Takes out a 12-term Republican incumbent. But we saw one House race in Florida called for the Republicans in a very swing district. This one called for the Democrats in another one.
Which leaves us knowing absolutely nothing.
Zero.
Other than Florida is a tight state and could go either way. But right now, I mean, to what you've been saying, right now in Florida, you'd rather be Donald Trump than Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, right now, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he's ahead by 100,000 votes.
In that state, in that must-have state. And of course, they all went down there, I mean, repeatedly. And of course, what we also saw with the campaigns over the last couple of days was the Obamas went to Pennsylvania. They went to Michigan. Hillary Clinton had all of her best surrogates in Pennsylvania and Michigan over the past couple of days, and both of those states are too close to call. We saw a serious erosion of her numbers in the latest polls after the Jim Comey announcement a couple of weeks ago. And then they had said that there may have been some leveling off in advance of the actual vote. So how is that playing out tonight as the voters are actually showing up at the polling stations? We don't know yet. It's 9:09 here in the East. I want to check in on the campaign headquarters tonight and find out what's happening there. Let's start with campaign Carl Cameron. Carl?
Hi, Megan. Well, there is a palpable increase of enthusiasm here. The audience has begun to grow at Trump headquarters at the Hilton, right in Midtown Manhattan. And you can begin to see why it's been predicted for months that this race would come down to the wire. Polls showing in the battleground states, polls showing nationally prior to this election day that it was within the margin and it could have been either candidate's race. And now, as we begin to get a little bit later into the evening, it's clear that those principally important battleground states, Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, are just as close as the polls had suggested. In several hours, perhaps things will begin to break differently, but it's not at all clear that this might not be the kind of thing where the margins are so small that we may not get victory speeches or concession speeches from either candidates tonight and find ourselves pulling an all-nighter until we can get more accurate full counts from some of these last-minute precincts, where either Hillary Clinton's going to have a big minority pull out or Donald Trump's going to find in Hillsborough County and elsewhere in Florida and the like that those working-class white voters are coming out in droves for him tonight. Megan?
Carl, thank you.
Next, let's go over to Jennifer Griffin at Clinton campaign headquarters and get the sights and sounds over there. Jen?
Hi, Brett. Well, there may be a good reason now that they decided to call off those fireworks over the Hudson. The Clinton campaign has all along said that Hillary Clinton is superstitious and she is not counting on anything until the votes come in. We now know the run of show here at the Javits Center. We know that she will be joined by several members of what they call Mothers of the Movement, members of the Black Lives Matters movement. Sabrina Fulton, who was Trayvon Martin's mother. She was also be joined by Katy Perry. Katy Perry has sung for the crowd here outside. She has been a longtime supporter of Hillary Clinton. She comes from a Republican family, and she got out. She has 75 million Twitter followers, and she got out the vote for Hillary Clinton early on with millennials. She also will be joined by Gold Star father Khizr Khan, who, of course, joined her in New Hampshire on the eve of the elections. They were hoping to appeal to Muslim American voters in Michigan when they were seeing their poll numbers falling in Michigan. He will be here tonight speaking with Hillary Clinton. Back to you,
Interesting,
Brett.
as the first states were called, Hillary Clinton was watching, Jen, in the peninsula, which is only 1 block away from Trump Tower. That is quite the proximity if you look at this race coming down to 1 block here in New York City.
Absolutely, Brett. In fact, we're here that she is surrounded by her family there. Her granddaughter, in fact, is wearing a little dress with an H on it, we're told.
And let me just ask you one more thing. Is there a sense, Jen, that that they are really worried about what they're seeing? I mean, do you get a palpable nervousness about possibly losing this race?
Well, if there is that feeling, they're not letting on, but I will say that they also are not walking around spiking the football. I would say that if you look at the phone calls she placed this morning, she did telephone interviews with radio stations in key states where they have been concerned, North Carolina, Detroit, as well as into New Hampshire. Brett?
Okay, Jennifer Griffin, who's done an amazing job covering the Clinton campaign for us. As you look at the electoral votes on the wall, 139 to 97, and the states that we're ticking for both Republicans and Democrats. We're back here with the panel, including Chris Steyerwalt and Karl Rove, who've run down from the data deck to give us a download. So what do we think here, gentlemen?
Not a single swing state has been called. Every one of these states that is on that map, red and blue, is what we anticipated at the beginning of the evening. And we have several states, North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio, that are seesawing back and forth, and in some instances showing some real surprises. 150,000 vote margin now in Florida, and over 130
for Donald Trump.
For Donald Trump, and 130,000 excuse me, 100,000 in North Carolina, though that one is going to change rapidly as Charlotte comes in.
Does that typically come in late?
It varies. The early vote comes in first. Again, like all these states, a significant amount of the vote in North Carolina is early and absentee, so that gets reported early. So even if you've got a small number of precincts being reported in Mecklenburg County, you got a large amount of the vote in, but there's still more precincts to go.
Sarah, why? So, I mean, some of the online projectors, other news organizations that crunch the numbers and have been poll watchers are suggesting Trump's got over an 85% chance right now of winning Florida. So what is it going to take for our decision desk? No pressure, guys, but just wondering, what's it going to take? What are they waiting for?
When it's right. It'll be right when it's right.
I'm asking what are the ingredients?
I wish Nate Silver every good thing, and I hope he and all of those guys have a wonderful time with their projection models. But when we call it, it'll be called and it'll stay called.
Okay. Well, I mean, Megan's going to walk over there if you don't watch it. It's closer now. She doesn't have to go as far.
Look, a large part of Broward and Palm Beach are still out. These are Democratic counties. And the question is how much of the panhandle, which is heavily Republican, has actually come in. And these are our decision desk is among the best out there. Let them do their work.
Among? What are you talking about? This among?
I've tried to rein you in tonight, man. If I said you're the best, you'd be insufferable upstairs on the data deck.
Exactly.
Right here?
I think it's the best.
Oh, that's all you had?
Yeah.
But he's right. I think that's the most salient point of the evening so far.
Well, we love the decision desk. But
you know what? We might also be.
Carl, who's going to win Florida?
I think it's going to be narrow either way. It's not going to be as close as 2000, God forbid, but my gut tells me that it might be him.
Let me ask this question. Will we know tonight who the president is?
We may not because of North Carolina and Nevada and some other states. We may not know until tomorrow morning, meaning after midnight tonight.
We're going to get a flop here pretty soon on these states, with the northern tier states on which Donald Trump's banking, about Pennsylvania, about Michigan, about Wisconsin, Minnesota. We're going to get a flop here pretty soon. What
does that mean?
A lot of data is going to come in.
The next round of exit polling plus raw vote.
Enough raw vote, and we're going to start to see whether or not what look to be unusually close races in this northern tier, whether or not this is going to flop his way or is it going to flop her way.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
There's two quick points here. There are a couple of counties. You and I were talking about this earlier, Chris. Loudoun County, Virginia being one, Hillsborough County in Florida being another that have been bellwether counties. So far tonight in Loudoun County, as far as we know, Hillary Clinton is doing very well indeed.
Yes.
But the race in the state of Virginia is still way too close to call, correct?
We're not calling it yet.
Okay.
Northern Virginia hasn't come in, and that's the bottom line.
Right.
That there's going to be a ton of vote in Northern Virginia.
And in Hillsborough County, Florida, the early results we had were that she was doing great there, and yet she's trailing in the state. So what may happen in this election is it may be that some of these counties that have been great bellwethers in the past because of their makeup may turn out not to be this time. They may have a whole new set of bellwether counties.
But remember, we've got to be careful about reading too much into partial results in Florida because, again, the early vote comes in, it's counted first, it's reported early, and the vote on Election Day is oftentimes different than the vote in an early vote.
But just
one more quick thing. We have those three states, Ohio, North Carolina, and Florida. If he wins all those three, remember, in order to get to the presidency, he needs to break the blue wall, and that's why Chris's point about Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota is so critical.
Right.
He's got to break in there, even if he carries these other states.
He's in play in all of them tonight at 9:17. It hasn't lost a single state that he needs to win the presidency. That's where things stand.
Speaking
at almost 9:20 in the East.
Not losing states, Republicans are winning states in the Senate. Senator Johnny Isakson of Georgia will defeat his Democratic challenger and will get over 50% of the vote there, precluding a runoff January 10th. So, there's that one.
That's how they're feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want this election to go on.
That's what I mean.
Any longer than it has been a joy. It's been a pleasure for all of us. I know
I'm just taking this personally. I wanted to come back on December 10th.
You may be here all night into tomorrow. You're going to have to settle for that.
We need to pay off this fancy new studio.
You know, tomorrow I'm going over just for some fun to co-host Live with Kelly Ripa. And I thought I'd have no problem.
You may not make it.
I'm starting to worry whether I'm going to make my hit.
Is she talking about North Carolina?
Yeah, they're a big politics show, so I'm sure they're probably looking at the counties tonight.
Well, they better bring the show over here, I think.
She'd probably love it.
We are awaiting calls in several big battleground states coming up at any minute, actually. The flop so mentioned.
Meantime, the House Speaker Paul Ryan getting ready to speak in Wisconsin. We'll keep our eyes on that. Stay with us, everybody, as the big night gets bigger right here at Fox News Election Headquarters.
There you see the national popular vote as it stands right now. It will continue to fill in throughout the night. The electoral vote stands at 139 for Donald Trump and 97 electoral votes for Hillary Clinton. We are going to be seeing a lot change shortly, we believe, with some big states coming in. And we want to check in with some of our reporters in battleground states. Let's start with Steve Harrigan in Florida. Steve?
Brett, if you told Hillary Clinton's campaign that they'd be ahead by 200,000 votes in Miami-Dade County and another 200,000 votes plus in Broward County, they'd be very happy with those results. Keep in mind, these southern Democratic-leaning counties were the counties that gave President Obama a narrow win 4 years ago with just a 200,000 vote surplus. But apparently that is not enough. The only explanation would be extremely strong, passionate Trump support in other parts of the state. So the normal route to Democratic victory in Florida, run up big margins in the South and hang on. Well, they are running up big margins in the South, the Democrats are, but apparently not enough to hang on so far. Brett, back to you.
Okay, Steve, thanks. We have another call to make. The Fox News decision desk can call the Connecticut presidential race for Hillary Clinton tonight. Not a surprise there, but Hillary Clinton picks up those 7 electoral votes, so that adds to her column now at 104 to 139.
We're keeping our eyes on so many critical swing states tonight that we are not yet able to call, including Ohio. I want to get to John Scott, who's live for us in Columbus tonight. John?
Megan, we're at the headquarters for the Rob Portman Senate campaign. He accepted victory earlier. The National Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee is going to be beating a path to his door to see how you run a race, because he started this one 10 points down, won big tonight over a popular former governor, Ted Strickland. Now, he kept Donald Trump at something of arm's length during this race. Trump is having a separate party. Trump's campaign is having a separate party here in Columbus. But there is the feeling that Rob Portman's efforts here may have helped Trump mightily in this state. The last returns, of course, showed Trump about 3 points ahead here in Ohio, but still, as you know, too close to call. We'll be here to continue to watch the race results here in Ohio. Megan.
John, thank you.
Jenna Lee in Raleigh, North Carolina. Jenna, over to you.
Brett, during the American Revolution, the British referred to the state of North Carolina as a hornet's nest of rebels. And you can see the rebellious spirit tonight in the state of North Carolina. Sure, you have 2 million Democrats, you have 2 million registered Republicans, but you also have 2 million unaffiliated voters. And this is where the mystery remains tonight. Who are these unaffiliated voters? During the primaries, they broke for Donald Trump. But who are they tonight is going to be a big deal. Are they the millennials? Are they the women? Are they the rural voters? No one knows at this point, and we still have a ton of precincts yet to report, so we're keeping an eye on all the results as they come in. Back to you.
Jenna, thank you. Now let's head over to a top Hillary Clinton surrogate and supporter. Missouri Democratic Senator Clara McCaskill sits on the Armed Services and Homeland Security Committees. Senator, thanks for being here. I want to get your thoughts about what's happening tonight, what we're seeing, what you're feeling.
Well, I mean, we always knew this was going to be a close race, and it is close. It's still too early to know exactly how we're going to get the path to victory, but we're still confident that Hillary Clinton will be elected tonight.
Senator, you're one of 25 Democratic senators up next time around. As you look at the Senate landscape, in the wake of this presidential race that seems very tight, what do you think about your colleagues possibly taking control of the U.S. Senate?
Well, I think we will take control of the U.S. Senate tonight. I think we've already picked up one seat, and I think that there has not been any surprises so far tonight in the Senate races. But it's still going to be very close. And I'll tell you what we all need to realize. No matter who controls the U.S. Senate, we got to work together and get something done. This cynicism people have about their government, the way we fix that is by compromise and working together. So whether the Republicans are in control or the Democrats are in control, we've got to figure out a way to get things done through compromise.
Senator, I mean, you say there's no surprises, but we have not You know, it's very tight in Pennsylvania. It's still tight in Virginia. It is tight in Michigan. It is tight. You know, there's tight in a lot of places that we didn't think it was going to be tight. I mean, isn't that a surprise?
I'm not sure about that. I think we saw a lot of polling. I mean, there's a reason why Donald Trump was going to some of those states, because he saw the polls tighten. So I think we're used to close elections in the United States. We're a divided country. That's why I hope more and more Americans realize we got to quit standing on opposite sides of the room and screaming at each other, and we've got to figure out how to compromise and get things done, or the cynicism and negativity about our government is just going to get worse.
Senator Megyn Kelly here. Originally, as we came into this night, folks like the New York Times number cruncher was projecting that Hillary had an 80% chance of winning Florida. Now it's down to 58%. Do you fear that Florida is lost?
Oh, it's obviously going to be very close. I mean, there's still votes to be counted. And, you know, I don't know that anybody in America ever remembers when Florida hasn't been close. So I think it's going to be another close one in Florida, but we still are waiting for votes. When those votes come in, they'll tell the tale.
Senator, thank you for being here.
You bet.
The night is getting exciting, and it is far from over. Want to get check back in now with our panel. Karl Rove is here, Chris Stirewalt still. Joe Trippi joins the panel, and Dana Perino, which has got Chris Wallace feeling a little nostalgic for the campaign Cowboys. But you're over here now, Chris. You're over here. Welcome to the party.
I can't quit you guys.
You'll always be our trail boss.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
So anyway, let me start with you, Joe, on what your take on what we're seeing with these, what appear to be pretty tight races in some pretty important states.
It's going to be tight. Florida always is. I mean, it just always is. I mean, going back, to hanging chads and everything else is going to do it again.
But Michigan and Pennsylvania and Virginia and possibly Minnesota are not always tight.
That's right, but there's no, at this point, none of those have been called, and I don't think they will for some time, and she's got leads there, so we'll see. The state I'm interested in is New Hampshire, because that's the state that if Al Gore had won in 2000, he would have been president, and it was only by a few thousand votes, and now you look at this state, if the blue wall holds and she wins New Hampshire, it's still very tough, even with Trump winning Florida, North Carolina, Ohio. He can't get there from here.
But how are you feeling right now? Because as Chris Wallace points out, you know, you got the early exit poll results, and people were thinking, well, it doesn't look that good for him. And now it seems like there's been a shift.
Look, I'm not at all worried yet. And I don't know of any Democrat who is. I mean, Florida.
I know a couple. I mean, we just talked to a few that mentioned some things.
Yeah, no, but I mean, Florida was a state that I really believed was going to be 50,000 votes one way or the other.
But they were talking a big game going in. I mean, the early vote, the Hispanic vote, the Latino vote down south. It was a lot of confidence for Democrats.
She may still win. She may still win Florida. I'm not saying to count on it, but it's going to be a squeaker either way. I think that the real question is, what does happen? Does she hold Pennsylvania, which I think she will? Does she hold Michigan?
But based on what? You think she will based on what?
Based on the votes that we're seeing that are coming in
today. So you're talking about
although
data
I also
you're
trust
at
I do think our decision desk is the best out there, and if they're not calling it, there's a reason for that. So I'll say that out front. But they haven't called Florida either.
Yeah, Dana, the latest wave in exit polls has on the gender gap, Hillary Clinton 54, Donald Trump 48 in female vote, and on the male vote, Donald Trump 50, Hillary Clinton 41. I mean, for all the beginning of the night where we saw the gender gap, this huge divide, it's closing.
Just the other night we were talking about gender politics, and the number sort of for women that you need to win as a Republican is 45. George W. Bush was able to do that in 2004. Romney and McCain were not. They came just short of that. And so if Donald Trump, if these numbers hold, then obviously he has closed the gender gap. I do think that the Democrats overestimated the power of the voting for the first woman president. I think that the Republicans sort of underestimated how powerful that might be, but those numbers might turn out to be similar to what McCain, Romney, or even possibly George W. Bush in 2004.
The polls show us that the importance of the fact that she is a woman was very, very low.
Very low.
And people just It was like, that's nice, but we don't care.
It just washed right over them.
Yeah, the gender gap existed because of, things Trump did and said. It wasn't the fact that he's a man and she's a woman. And the question all along has been, could he generate enough support among men, in particular Republican men and white working class men, possibly Democrat or Republican, to overcome the deficit that he has had with women in this race? And Starwell, so far, I mean, at least in Florida, it appears, according to the latest exit polling, he's doing all right there.
He's doing fine there. And the other thing we should remember is it's early. It is early in this evening. It is early on election nights. Elections don't get called usually until well after 11 o'clock or well after when they do get called. We have had 0 total surprises on this map. Now, Florida, if Trump comes in with a win in Florida, that's not a surprise, but it is very good news for him. It would be very good news for him, a race that's been tied. He's led in the polls in Ohio. Him winning both of those states would not be a surprise. Then we get down to the nitty-gritty. We get to North Carolina, we get to New Hampshire, we get to Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So we are still not in the home stretch yet, and nothing weird has happened yet.
Okay, I want to touch on an issue that may be touchy, Carl. Ohio. Warren County, Ohio. Looks like Donald Trump is underperforming Mitt Romney by roughly 6%. And you had, back in 2004, Bush down, roughly 7% from that. What are these counties telling you in Ohio about Trump being able to pull that state off?
Well, 2 things. First, I don't want to pass over something that Chris has alluded to. Think about this. Donald Trump could win Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio and still lose the election.
Oh, yeah.
Because he has to find a big brick in the blue wall and pull it and grab it away. Ohio, I've been looking at these numbers. If I were Trump, I'd be a little concerned because he is not getting what he needs to get in some of these traditional Republican suburban areas.
Like Warren County.
Like Warren County. On the other hand, take a look along the Ohio River, and he is at or above where previous Republican candidates have been. The question is there enough in the sort of the old coal country that starts on the eastern edge near Mahoning County and Youngstown Steel Country and then literally runs across along the Ohio River border? Are there enough votes there to make up what he's coming up short of where he should be? He's winning Warren. He's winning Claremont. But is he winning them by the margins that others have won them before? The answer is no.
Which serves him well on Western PA as well. I mean, it's the same group of voters.
That's right. And the question all along has been, to some extent, whether there are enough of these voters out there. These white working-class voters who we knew were strongly for Trump. The question always has been, were there enough of them? Because he was at such a disadvantage with majorities. We knew he was not going to win the women's vote and might lose it by a very large margin. So could he make it up in that category, and would that category turn out to be big enough? And would that then establish what there's been so much argument about since 2012, which was that whether they were missing Republicans, missing conservatives in the electorate that year? I came more or less to the conclusion that there were not. But perhaps I was wrong.
Well, the exit polls do suggest to us that a large number of the people who are voting Republican this year have always voted in previous elections. May not have always voted Republican, but they voted before.
Yeah.
And look, it's not just Warren. If I was picking out one county that I'd be watching and worrying about if I were Donald Trump in the state, it would be Delaware County, the big suburban stronghold right north of Columbus. That's the one I'd be worried about because it is professionals, college-educated, white professionals with a lot of soft Republicans among them.
We're talking, Carl, about Trump and Trump counties. What about Clinton? How is she doing in Cuyahoga? How is she doing in the big Democratic counties as compared to how Barack Obama did in 2012?
Again, I'd want to defer to Chris on this, but I get the sense, looking at Cuyahoga and Franklin, that there's something missing out of that coalition. And my gut tells me if we get in to look at the precinct-level data, it's going to be African-American turnout.
I think there is some turnout weakness. The early going shows some turnout weakness in those places. But the big question here is, and I think Britt alluded to it very effectively before, the 2 counties on either side of the county that I grew up in, one in Pennsylvania and one in Ohio, Belmont County, Ohio, and Washington County, Pennsylvania, this is coal country, this is steel country, this is post-industrial. These are places that used to have a lot of Democrats. That's where Donald Trump can make it all up. If there is a deficiency in Franklin County among the Republicans there, if there is a deficiency in suburban Philadelphia, that's where he's got to score enormously.
But how much of this, Joe, is attributable to the fact that we're talking about 90% of Republicans who backed Donald Trump today. I mean, just after the, Access Hollywood bus incident, it was down to, I think, 83%. And so over the past 3 weeks, 4 weeks, he's managed to get those Republicans back into the fold. And so it comes down to the independents. She's got 90% of the Dems. He's got 90% of the Republicans. So it comes down to those critical independent voters.
Yeah, and what definitely happened is Republicans came home. I mean,
Mike Pence.
They did. And exactly. As I said, come home, and they heard it. I think the interesting thing is that I came into the night expecting Clinton to have a lead in Florida, hold it.